You were told the greatest victory in life is to be chosen, to be wanted, to be loved. But look around you. How many men have burned their futures at the altar of affection? How many have handed over their freedom just to keep a warm body next to them at night? How many kings have surrendered their crowns for the comfort of a smile? Every time you chase love, you trade power for validation. Every time you beg to be accepted, you betray yourself. Every time you sacrifice your future for affection, you sign your own death warrant. And the worst part, you think it's noble. You think it's right. You think it makes you strong. But Nietzsche saw it differently. He saw through the lies of society, the lies of the herd, the lies you were taught since childhood. He called it herd morality, the sickness of the many. And the herd's greatest trick was convincing you that solitude is weakness, when in reality it's the only way to become untouchable. Think of the man who gives up his dreams to please. He becomes nothing more than a shadow of what he could have been. Think of the man who sacrifices his destiny for love. His name vanishes, his work dissolves, his empire never rises. And think of the man who refuses, the one who walks away from the chains, who embraces the silence, who endures the fire of solitude. That man becomes dangerous because here is the brutal truth. You cannot win if you are begging. You cannot rise if you are clinging. You cannot rule if you are afraid to be alone. Nietzsche didn't believe in comfort. He believed in struggle, in hardship, in suffering as the forge of greatness. And nothing burns hotter, nothing cuts deeper, nothing refines sharper than solitude. So listen carefully. If you are still searching for love to complete you, you will remain incomplete. If you are still hoping someone will save you, you will remain powerless. And if you are still willing to give your crown away just to be chosen, then you will never win. But if you can endure being alone, if you can stay single while the world pressures you to kneel, if you can turn solitude into your weapon, then you will rise above the herd. You will see the game for what it is. You will become untouchable. This is not about bitterness. It is not about avoiding love forever. It is about becoming so powerful, so sovereign, so whole, that when you do choose, you choose from strength, not from weakness. And that is why today you will learn Nietzsche's dark law. Why staying single is not just an option, not just a lifestyle, but the only way to win. You were born into a world of lies. From the very first fairy tale you were fed, the story was always the same. Happiness comes when you find someone else. Fulfillment comes when you were chosen. Completion comes only through love. And you believed it. You believed it when you saw the movies where the hero isn't truly victorious until he gets the girl. You believed it when your parents asked, "When will you settle down?" You believed it when society told you that being single is just a waiting room for the real life that begins with marriage. But here's the truth. Nietzsche saw long before you. This is not love. This is conditioning. This is the herd training you to chain yourself willingly. Love, as society sells it, is not salvation. It is sedation. It is the soft pillow that suffocates you while whispering sweet promises of safety. Look around. How many men have destroyed their futures because they chased the promise of completion through someone else? How many kings have become servants in their own homes? How many strong men have handed over their will, their ambition, their destiny for the comfort of belonging? You've been tricked, lied to, betrayed, because the herd does not want you free. The herd does not want you sovereign. The herd wants you tame. Nietzsche called this herd morality, the morality of the weak, the morality that glorifies dependence, obedience, conformity, and condemns strength, independence, solitude. The herd tells you, be kind, be agreeable, be selfless, give everything to another. And you obeyed, you gave, you bent, you compromised. But every compromise carved away a piece of your soul. Every act of obedience killed your will to power. Every sacrifice for love was not noble. It was the slow death of the man you could have been. You feel it, don't you? That gnawing frustration deep inside, that quiet voice that says you are meant for more, that you are wasting yourself trying to please. That is not bitterness speaking. That is your buried sovereignty begging to be released. History is filled with examples of men who refused the lie. Think of Nikola Tesla, a man who deliberately rejected marriage, not because he hated women, but because he refused to divide his energy. He poured everything into his work, and his solitude gave birth to inventions that changed the world. Think of Nietzsche himself, who saw marriage not as salvation, but as a potential prison. For him, solitude was not loneliness, it was freedom. Now ask yourself this: when was the last time love made you stronger? When was the last time validation gave you clarity? When was the last time dependence sharpened your mind and hardened your will? Never. Because it cannot. Love, as the herd sells it, is designed to soften you, to tame you, to make you manageable. And yet, here is the paradox. You were told that being single is failure, that solitude is shame, that if no one chooses you, you are worthless. But what if the opposite is true? What if staying single is not weakness, but the refusal to be domesticated? What if solitude is the mark of the rare man who chooses power over comfort? The lie of love was never about love. It was about control. If you spend your life begging for affection, you will never rise. If you depend on another to validate your worth, you will never own yourself. If you hand over your future in the name of love, you will never win. And this is why Nietzsche was hated. He stripped the illusion bare. He dared to say that solitude is the path of the sovereign, and love, as society glorifies, it is the drug of the herd. So now the question is not, do you want love? The real question is, do you want to win? Because you cannot have both. You can be tamed by love, or you can be crowned by solitude. You can remain a servant of the herd, or you can rise as the sovereign who stands alone. But you cannot be both. You fear being alone because they trained you to fear it. They told you that silence means emptiness, that solitude means failure, that if no one is standing beside you, you must not be worth anything. But here is the truth Nietzsche saw. Solitude is not emptiness, it is fire. It is the forge where greatness is hammered into being. Every man you admire, every thinker, every conqueror, every creator, walk through the crucible of solitude. Because it is only in solitude that the weak illusions burn away. It is only in solitude that the noise of the herd goes silent. And it is only in solitude that the true self emerges, sharper, harder, unstoppable. Think of Friedrich Nietzsche himself. He spent much of his life in isolation, misunderstood, dismissed, abandoned by friends, tormented by illness. And yet, in that silence, he wrote words so powerful that the world still trembles at them today. His solitude was not loneliness, it was clarity. Think of Machiavelli, cast out of power, exiled, forgotten. While others drank and mourned, he went into his study, put on his robes of state, and spoke with the ancients. Out of that exile came The Prince, one of the most feared and immortal books on power ever written. Would he have written it surrounded by comfort, noise, and constant validation? Never. It was solitude that carved it into his soul. Think of Tesla pacing his lab alone at midnight, whispering to the hum of electricity. No wife, no children, no distractions, just the relentless pursuit of invention. And it was there in the silence that he touched lightning itself. This is the pattern you must understand. Solitude is not where men are diminished. It is where men are multiplied. The herd tells you solitude is a cage, but it is a forge. The herd says loneliness destroys you. but it is the crowd that destroys you by pulling you into mediocrity. In solitude, you meet the only person you must conquer, yourself. And when you win there, when you dominate in the silence, no one outside of you can stand against you. So why does the world fear solitude so much? Because the man who is comfortable alone cannot be manipulated. He cannot be bribed with affection. He cannot be blackmailed with abandonment. He cannot be enslaved by the fear of being left. This is why Nietzsche declared that the higher man must endure solitude. Because only in solitude do you sharpen your will like a blade. Only in solitude do you discover the ideas that do not belong to the herd. Only in solitude do you rise above the noise of the many and begin to hear the music of your own destiny. Yes, solitude is heavy, it is cold, it is silent. But so is the mountain where the eagle builds its nest. So is the battlefield before dawn. So is the throne of a king before the subjects arrive. Your solitude is not a weakness. It is proof that you were meant for something the crowd cannot understand. Because if you were just another servant of the herd, you would crave their constant company. But you don't. That hunger inside you, that dissatisfaction, that pull towards silence. It is the mark of someone chosen for more. And here is the law. The more time you can endure alone, the more dangerous you will become when you return. Because while the herd wastes its life chasing validation, you will be building. While they beg for affection, you will be sharpening. While they drown in noise, you will be forging the weapon of your own will. So stop calling it loneliness. Stop calling it emptiness. Call it what it is: a crucible, a battlefield, a forge. And when you step out of it, you will not be soft. You will not be weak. You will not be broken. You will be fire. There is a fire inside you. You felt it before in flashes. The urge to dominate, to create, to push beyond what you are and seize what could be yours. Enzi called this fire the will to power. It is not about survival. Survival is for animals. It is not about comfort. Comfort is for the herd. The will to power is about expansion, growth, command, becoming more today than you were yesterday. And here is the brutal truth. When you are chained to dependency, that fire is smothered. Every hour you spend begging for affection, every ounce of energy you pour into chasing validation, that is energy stolen from your ascent. Think about it. The man who texts all night, desperate for attention, spends his dawn exhausted, his focus shattered. The man who shapes his choices to keep someone else happy wastes the very force that could have been spent building his empire. The man who bends his will to belong slowly forgets he ever had a will at all. But the man who stays single, the man who chooses solitude, redirects that fire. He does not chase validation. He feeds the flame of mastery. This is the law of power. What you give to another, you cannot give to yourself. And if you give your time, your energy, your ambition to the herd, you will never rise above it. Imagine this. One man spends 100 hours in a month begging for love. Another spends 100 hours building skill, lifting iron, writing, creating, earning. At the end of the month, one is weaker and emptier than before. The other is sharper, stronger, closer to sovereignty. Which man are you? Do not fool yourself. You are not balancing both. You cannot serve two masters, validation and power. One consumes the other. History proves it. Alexander the Great became a conqueror, not because he was surrounded by comfort, but because he directed every ounce of his will toward expansion. Leonardo da Vinci, often solitary, obsessed with his work, left behind creations that outlived kingdoms. Even Julius Caesar, betrayed by love and alliances, wrote that ambition alone must be the compass of men who wish to rule. The herd will tell you, this is obsession. They will whisper that you are wasting your life in selfishness. But the herd only says this because your will exposes their weakness. Your fire makes their excuses burn away. Here is what you must understand. A power does not come from waiting. Power does not come from compromise. Power comes from energy directed with relentless precision. And staying single is how you protect that energy. You're not drained by constant arguments. You are not softened by dependency. You are not chained by the need to be validated. You are free to take every ounce of that fire and drive it into building yourself. So build. Build your body until it obeys you like a weapon. Build your mind until your words cut deeper than a blade. Build your work until it bends reality itself. This is your protocol. 100 hours of mastery. For every 100 hours, the herd wastes in desperation. Do this, and in 1 year, you will not even recognize yourself. This is what Nietzsche meant by the will to power. Not domination over others, but domination over yourself first. And from that inner conquest comes the strength to shape the world around you. The weak man waits for permission. The strong man creates permission. The herd wants survival. The sovereign demands expansion. And the choice is in front of you right now. Waste your fire begging for love, or feed it into the forge of power. Because every second you spend chasing validation is a second you could have spent conquering. Every minute you waste in dependency is a minute you could have spent sharpening. And every day you cling to weakness is a day you could have spent rising into sovereignty. This is your law. Stay single until your will to power is undeniable. Stay single until your fire burns so bright that the world cannot ignore you. Stay single until your energy no longer leaks into desperation, but explodes into mastery. Then, and only then, will you win. Every failure you've endured was not random. Every humiliation, every betrayal, every desperate chase for someone who didn't value you, these were not accidents. They were funerals. Funerals for the weaker version of yourself. But here's the problem. You never buried him. You kept, carrying his corpse on your back. The man who begged, the man who chased, the man who confused validation for love. And as long as you keep dragging that corpse forward, you will never rise. NZ understood this brutal necessity. Self-overcoming, not growth, not improvement, not slow polishing of flaws. Overcoming, execution, killing the old self so the new one can breathe. The herd will tell you dependency is natural, that needing others is human, that vulnerability is strength. But look closely. Has your need ever made you free? Has your dependence ever made you powerful? Has your weakness ever crowned you? Number. Dependency is a chain. Every time you explain yourself, justify yourself, beg for acceptance, the chain tightens. Every time you sacrifice your ambition to please, another link is welded shut. And soon you're not even a man. You're a prisoner disguised as a lover. But solitude is the knife that cuts those chains. Every moment you choose silence over begging, you kill the needy self. Every time you endure loneliness, instead of running back to comfort, you bury the old corpse 1 foot deeper. Every time you say no to validation, you say yes to sovereignty. This is why Nietzsche called for self-overcoming. Because to be reborn, you must first be executed. The weak self cannot walk beside the strong self. One must die for the other, to live. Think back to your lowest moments, the rejection that shattered you, the nights you stared at a screen waiting for a reply that never came, the shame of realizing you had given everything and received nothing. Those moments were deaths, and yet you clung to them. You replayed them. You let the ghost live inside you. But here now, in this moment, you must bury him. No eulogies, no tears, no second chances. The old you dies here. The you who begged, the you who explained, the you who thought love was salvation. From now on, every act of dependency will feel like treason. From now on, every ounce of weakness will feel like poison, because you are no longer a servant of validation. You are a sovereign of silence. This is the death ritual of the weak self. Dependency, sishbags, chains, solitude, psalm liberation, validation, all boss, poison, silence, all power. Repeat it until the corpse is gone. And when you rise tomorrow, you will rise as someone unrecognizable. Not a man begging to be loved, but a man feared for being untouchable. The herd will not understand. They will mock. They will question. They will try to pull you back into the grave you just climbed out of. But you will not return because the man they knew is already dead. And from his ashes, the sovereign begins. Most men endure solitude like a prison sentence. They count the days. They resent the silence. They see their singleness as a curse, proof that something is wrong with them. But Nietzsche gave a different command. Amore fati. Love your fate, not tolerate it, not survive it. Love it. Because when you love your fate, even the pain becomes power. When you embrace what you cannot change, it stops being a chain and becomes a crown. Think of the man who resents his solitude. He spends his nights scrolling, envying the herd, begging the universe to send him someone who will complete him. His energy is poisoned by resistance. His days rot in bitterness. He wastes his strength resenting the silence, and in doing so, he proves himself unworthy of power. Now think of the man who embraces solitude as destiny. He wakes alone but does not feel empty. He sits in silence and sees it as proof of his sovereignty. Every hour he spends without distraction, without validation, becomes an offering to his future self. His solitude is not a punishment. It is a throne. Do you see the difference? One man fights reality and loses. The other accepts reality and transforms it into strength. This is the essence of amorati. To look at your solitude, your fate, and not only accept it, but love it. To declare this is mine, and I would choose it again if given the chance. Nietzsche said, "My formula for greatness in a human being is fati, that one wants nothing to be different, not forward, not backward, not in all eternity." Imagine the power of a man who can look at his life, the silence, the isolation, the long nights, and say, "I would live this exact life again and again." That is not weakness. That is invincibility. Because the man who resists fate is always broken by it. But the man who loves fate bends it into his weapon. Your solitude is not an accident. It is not a mistake. It is your initiation. The gods or fate or destiny or whatever name you give it have chosen you for something greater than the herd. And the proof is that you walk a road they cannot endure. So stop calling it loneliness. Stop treating it like punishment. Start treating it like privilege, because most men will never know what it means to stand truly alone. Most men will never be strong enough to embrace silence without losing their minds. But you are not most men. If you can love your solitude, if you can love the very fate the herd fears, then you are already above them. Because amorati does not just free you from pain, it elevates you into sovereignty. The man who resents solitude dies in it. The man who loves solitude becomes untouchable. So ask yourself, will you keep fighting what is already yours, or will you crown yourself with the silence you were given? Amorati, love your fate. Love your solitude. Love the road no one else can walk. Because it is not a curse. It is proof you were chosen to win. The weak man is gone. The one who begged, the one who waited, the one who thought love would save him. He is buried now, and from his grave something else rises. Not soft, not desperate, not afraid of silence, but cold, sovereign, untouchable. This is the rebirth Nietzsche spoke of. Self-overcoming, the moment when the old self is executed and the new self emerges sharper than a blade. Look at your solitude now. It is not a waiting room. It is not a prison. It is a battlefield. And on this battlefield, kings are forged. Every hour you walk alone is another scar that hardens you. Every temptation you resist is another muscle of will. Every silence you endure is another crown placed upon your head. The herd will never understand this. They look at solitude and see emptiness. But you now see what they cannot. You see that solitude is your weapon, your training ground, your throne. This is the threshold. From this moment forward, you can never return to the weakness you once called love. You can never again kneel for validation, beg for attention, or sacrifice your future for the comfort of belonging. That man is dead, and in his place stands a sovereign, a man feared not for his cruelty, but for his independence, respected not for his charm, but for his silence, untouchable because he needs nothing from anyone. Do you feel it? That shift in your chest, that is your old identity collapsing and the new one being born. It is not hope, it is not motivation, it is recognition. Recognition that you were never meant to crawl with the herd. You were meant to stand above them. So declare it now. You are no longer incomplete. You are no longer waiting. You are no longer chained. You are untouchable, and solitude is your crown. From this moment forward, your solitude is not an accident. It is not a punishment. It is your oath. Every day you walk alone, you declare, I am sovereign. Every hour you resist the herd, you proclaim, I am untouchable. Every silence you endure becomes a weapon sharpened against the world. Staying single is not waiting. It is winning. It is the ritual of the sovereign. It is the proof that you belong not to the herd, but to yourself. So hear this command. Never again will you kneel for validation. Never again will you beg to be chosen. Never again will you sacrifice your future for affection. That man is gone, dead, buried. You win alone until the world has no choice but to recognize you. And when that day comes, you will not need their approval. You will not need their applause. You will not need their love, because power respects itself. Now, if you are ready to seal this oath, do it. Subscribing is not a favor, it is allegiance. Liking this video is not kindness, it is your seal. Commenting below is not a conversation. It is your mark that the weak self has been executed and the sovereign has been born. This is not entertainment. This is initiation. This is not motivation. This is a transformation. Nietzsche's law was clear. It is not love that makes men free. It is power. And now that power is yours, the ritual is done. The crown is yours.